This is the
Hi, Lisa.
Hi Leah. Thanks for joining me again. And after you returning from the FOP conference in Melbourne,
Mhm.
and do you want to tell us a little bit about the conference? We can talk about some of the topics and I guess the traveling and what that looked like, and perhaps if you know, we'll try and keep it around 30 minutes. And if anybody's got any questions, they can post questions in the comments below, and we can come back and talk about some more um, in the future. But do you want to tell us a little bit about what it looked like trying to navigate all the luggage you would need to take over and equipment you'd need to take over to Melbourne, and then navigating the airport and everything else it took to get yourselves just to the um, your accommodation.
Yeah, sure. So the conference went for the Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and we chose to leave a little earlier just to get our little person settled and to get our heads around the FOP conference. It's the first time in 10 years we've come together. So leaving Adelaide Airport, I think it probably took us a few days to get our items together at home, make sure that everything was packed well, protected. We're talking about big pieces of equipment in regards to wheelchairs and strollers and other, you know, support needs for our little person. So yeah, packed the car um, to the hill, arrived at the airport, and fortunately for us, we did have a neighbour drive us to the airport in our car because that was the best way to get us, our little person, to the airport safely. Arrived at the airport and began our journey of 3 trolleys of suitcases, car seat, stroller, little person in the wheelchair, um, and it does take one person to attend to our FOP person, so 1 to 1, and the other person was managing luggage, which you can imagine with 3 trolleys was a huge feat. Fortunately for us, the airport staff were incredible and helped transport a trolley. And another gentleman, just a member of our community, saw the struggle we were having and said, "Can I help?" He was on his way into the airport doors. So we were so fortunate to have those extra unexpected hands on to help us just get into the airport door. So
So
that
you
was the
didn't,
first thing.
so you didn't have any other support travel with you to give you a hand. Um,
No,
did how did everybody else do? Did other people have support for their families?
they did. They did have support for their families. They had their support people. Most of those support people to the FOP patients or people were well known to them, had a really good handle on what that person needed with FOP. They were that continuity and consistency of care person, but they also had their family members who were accompanying them in a different capacity than a care role. They were part of the family attending with their FOP person. So it did look very different. We were navigating things in a very different way, trying to manage and keep our FOP person safe, meet the needs, as well as being the parents, which was like a dual role, and it was really difficult.
So some people had like family and personal support people, and then other people had paid support. They
Yes,
paid professional support.
yes,
Uh-huh.
yeah, absolutely was necessary, absolutely was needed. And, you know, you could see perhaps there wasn't anyone there that was an FOP person without support. They need a lot of support around them just to navigate just I guess, the simplest things, only eating,
Hmm.
getting a drink. You know, not everything is disabled friendly when you're attending a conference. As best as they did an amazing job. FOP Australia did an incredible job, foreseeing and putting in place as best they could what it was an FOP person would need in a disability setting, and such a fragile setting too, because we do talk about FO people having to avoid any trauma to their bodies. So the simplest knock can cause trauma and exacerbate the FOP disease. So yeah, FOP Australia did an amazing job. Families are doing an amazing job. In hindsight, I know if I was to do it again, absolutely, would we be taking, our known support people who are known to our child? Definitely and absolutely would. Needed.
Yeah. That must have been exhausting, like for you, for the young person, because you wouldn't have had anybody to give any relief.
Mm.
Um, and to do that, someone misses out. Somebody misses out on the education and the conversation, don't they? And
Yeah, you're right there, Lisa. Like, when we look at little people, in general, little people, they do look for an Australian unusual and unfamiliar environment. They do look for that person, that connection, that security and sense of knowing that they are, I guess, not alone, not feeling frightened or worried or vulnerable. You put a little person who has FOP in a wheelchair in an environment like that, it is definitely and absolutely necessary that they have visual and connection to their person, their known person, with their parent, with their known carer, at, like immediately. They can't reach their hands out and tap someone. They can't come running up to their person and yank on their jumper and say, "Mum, Dad," or "Auntie." They can't do that. You have to be in line of sight and within reach at all times. So
Mhm.
yeah, when you look at that and you look at the context of the FOP Australia conference and some of the, I guess, the topics of conversation that were being had, it wasn't appropriate for a little person. And
Yeah.
sometimes some of the older people, some of the older FOP people were finding it hard, and families were struggling with the context of what it was we were talking about, and the disability and the needs, and the way in which we are discussing and talking about FOP.
Mhm.
It was hard, definitely very hard.
So I tuned into the entire conference on Zoom.
You did.
So I could see how amazing the people were, the experts in FOP that were talking and presenting. Um, I could feel the tone in the room just from being on Zoom, and how supportive and kind and understanding the community and I guess that environment was. Um, and the topics of conversation were so interesting. Even
Mm-hmm.
knowing, you already know quite a bit about FOP, and then listening to it and those medical experts and people and some of the adults with FOP
Yeah.
that I saw and the people that spoke. It was so interesting to learn how different and unique every case of FOP was, and then how those people were dealing with it, or from the medical professionals, all those different things that you need to be aware of, supporting, looking for, and then also how they've been looking for new treatments.
Mm-hmm.
All these things that have been happening and busy, behind the scenes that they've been working on and updates. So I'm just looking, I printed off the program, and like for instance, day one, one of the first presentations, and it included the update on PBS treatment. Did you want to mention what that means for FOP patients?
Yeah, it was an exciting moment for us all. We didn't know about it until we were sitting in, well, so most of us didn't know about it until we were sitting in the conference. And it was at that time they said, we have some news to share and exciting news to share about the palovarotene PBS drug. And that, I guess, what we do talk about, we talk about PBS, it's not just about the drug being available on PBS. It's more about the acknowledgement and recognizing that FOP has a place when it comes to medications, to treatment, to care. That is, one of those huge milestones. And the buzz in the room, I guess, yeah, there was an emotion in the room
Yeah.
talking about, drugs and treatments, because it is a very unique, rare disease.
Mhm.
And yeah, it, yeah, there was a lot to take in. So yes, PBS, a drug being approved, is a huge milestone
Mhm.
for AFOP
Did
people.
did you want to mention what type of drug that is? What relief, what does that provide to an FOP person?
Um, I'm not confident enough to tell you a lot about that. It is not something that I have a huge lot of knowledge about. I'd like to come back and talk about that there, Lisa, please.
Yeah,
I'd
that
love
was
to talk
good.
about medications, drugs and treatments and trials and the likes of what is out there for FOP people. Yeah,
Maybe we
uh,
can get somebody to come on and talk about it.
I would love some more
Yeah.
information. This is new to us also, and every conversation, every topic brings light to, I don't know, I have more questions. I have a lot of questions. I have so many questions. And I think
Yeah,
that's what we've been once at Happy Family. Some of my questions were answered, but now that I've walked away, it's like, I guess a lot of things, I have more questions. There's so much I want to know. And there's
exactly.
so much experience in Melbourne with people who live with FOP, the treating specialists, traveling from overseas and being like on Zoom and just being available to FOP people was the whole room was saying the same thing. Hey, I got to tell you something, Lisa. You ready?
Uh-huh.
I walked straight into, excuse me, um, I walked straight into the FOP on a Friday conference, and there was a family there. And this father comes up to me and goes, "Hey, I saw you on YouTube last night. You did an FOP Australia YouTube conference in 2025." I said, "I did." He goes, "It was amazing. I loved it." So it was like, I don't know, it was like, woohoo, well done, Lisa, because we got noticed by, an FOP family. So that's been exciting. And I asked him, "Would you ever consider coming?" And he goes, "Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, we all love talking about our families with FOP."
Uh-huh.
So
That would
yeah,
be good.
thank you. It was good.
That would be so good. Um, so I guess the second topic was the global FOP research landscape, what we know, what we have to know. So it would be really good to try and find somebody that would come on and talk a bit about the medication and a bit about the research,
I agree, Lisa.
and to
This
kind of give the broader community an idea of what's happening. But I know tuning in, um, I was amazed at listening to the types of things that they were looking at, and even how much from what we learnt years ago moving forward to today, and some of the ideas and things that they thought a couple of years ago, because they've been researching and I guess also connecting probably with more families, that they kind of get to then broaden their thinking. And some things they thought maybe weren't possible are now more possible, and then vice versa. That was really interesting to see the movement and how much thought they've been putting into the treatments and different options for the FOP people. That was amazing.
wasn't it just, wasn't it? It was yeah, it I guess, we always, when we come together, we learn more from each other. But not only do we learn more from each other as families and FOP people, but it's the researchers. They were saying to families, FOP families, you are a source of knowledge. You are what it is we need to continue to advance in research and, I guess, information and knowledge. And you know, it is that they're incredible human beings. They really are. All the specialists and the people of FOP and everyone who's working, you know, toward what they call a cure or some kind of intervention or support or help. But yeah, when they kind of acknowledge you as, and the FOP people as the, I don't know, the experts in FOP, it's in partnership. It's beautifully in harmony. It's a harmony. It's a partnership, and it's acknowledged and recognized beautifully. So
And
yes,
and probably and nice for all the parents and people doing all the hard work, nice for them to be acknowledged.
yeah, exactly. And there's we were talking about, let's say there was 8 to 9 FFP people from around New Zealand and Australia. Some
Mhm.
of our FFP people weren't able to make the conference due to the complexities, and but there's FFP people there who had never met or spoken to or seen another FFP person before, and our little person was one of those. So I don't know. She met. We call them sisters and brothers and aunts and uncles. It's a family, and just watching that, I don't know, that first initial contact, the conversations, acknowledging that they're similar in some ways, and just that's me too, or oh, my left arm doesn't work either, or yeah, I can't bend over, I have scoliosis. Just a lot of similarities that were just beautiful, confronting, very sad, but there's a lot of joy in there as well. I think
Yeah.
it's really important part of it to take away is these are humans, these are people. these are families, caring for their little ones, their loved ones with FOP. So it was great. Yeah.
Um, Probably one of the most interesting sessions I found most interesting was Professor Kaplan
Oh, yeah.
and his presentation and slideshow and the photos and you know the skeletal pictures were so good, so
Mm.
clear, and the way he explained everything, it was so everybody in the room would understand what he was saying. Um, and then really interesting, I've asked a couple of people, they were talking about the diaphragm that doesn't get affected by FOP, and then how there are three groups of muscles that aren't affected by FOP. So,
The
I asked a few people after saying, hey, so this is the case. One muscle not affected by FOP is the diaphragm. There's
mm,
three. Can you have a guess at what the other two might be? And they're looking at me going, I don't know what you're talking about. And
yeah,
I said, have a think about it. And no one could guess it. And I said, think about your tongue and your eyeballs.
yeah. Is that
And
that
like,
was
oh my
I
God.
found that so interesting, Lisa.
Uh-huh.
I was sitting there thinking, what are you talking about? And do you know that took a little FOP person to inform Dr. Fred Kaplan? He kind of said, well, it's not that hard, as you heard in the video. It's not that hard if you think about it. He
Yep.
said, what muscle never goes to sleep, never rests? What muscle is always continuously active? And it was the muscles of the eyeball, the muscles of the tongue, and the muscle of the diaphragm because they don't sleep. They're
Yep.
always moving.
And there has to be something that has
Oh,
to be one of the core reasons for it. You would like to think one of the most obvious ones.
no, isn't it
Really
quite
interesting.
incredible? It's amazing, isn't it? The more we talk about FOP, you know, I don't know, yeah, I don't know, it's hard. It's so hard. It's so challenging. It's confronting. It's overwhelming. It's high. It's low. You feel exhausted. You feel driven, energized. I am just so grateful that we were able to make it to the FOP conference in Melbourne. We have brought so much home, and we're still just slowly unpacking it, and reaching back into the conversations we had with the specialists. Um, yeah, lots, and other people who require new FOP families requiring support from families, who've been around for 7 years. Some have been around 30 years, sometimes 40 years. It was great to get stories and information and ask FOP people, what has been the most challenging thing for you? If you could tell your 10-year-old self, 20-year-old self, or 8-year-old self, what would you be saying to your 8-year-old self now, 10, 20 years on? It's good.
Mhm.
It's good to hear.
So what do you think the most valuable thing for you coming away from that conference? What's the most valuable thing that you brought away from that?
Connection, absolutely connection with other families. That being a mother of a person with FOP, or being a father or a sister or uncle, auntie, coming away knowing that you're not alone. It's a very rare disease, and you feel isolated. Coming alone with connection, coming away from connection, information. I did this answers to things I didn't even have questions to. I didn't know how to ask those things. I've been getting information, and I'm like, oh, I hadn't even thought about that, or I didn't know how to ask that, or being, yeah, firsthand, I guess, speaking to people with FOP who've lived with it for years was incredible. Um, connection, information, hopeful. There's that word hope. I love the word hope with FOP. So there's this hopefulness and this and acknowledgement, being recognized. It's like a language that I've learned. It's when you're I guess when you're rare, when you're a family with rare, something rare, unusual, unique. It is a language that I didn't have to speak it. It was in the room already. I arrived exactly where we arrived exactly where we were supposed to be at that very first minute. And when we left, it felt like we just made, I know, we've got new family.
Makes a huge difference, doesn't it?
Yeah, and our little person, um, has been talking about it. What was it like? It's 100%. It was 100. It was 100. And I said, "What's 100?" She goes, "It was 100% fantastic. It was so amazing. I have FOP brothers and sisters now, and I have FOP family." And talked about the people that she'd met in
Mhm.
um, a very unique way. It was her relationship. She built relationships for herself. It wasn't us um, bringing up conversations. We sat back and listened to her talk. It was beautiful.
It's so good.
Hmm.
The other thing I found interesting as well was it Dylan, the toolbox, ability toolbox, sharing
Yeah.
ideas and experiences. That was really good to hear from um, an adult with
He is an
FOP.
incredible man. What an incredible
Yep,
human. He
yep.
has such a presence, but it's subtle, it's gentle, it's kind, it's warm, it's inviting. To tell you the truth, I really couldn't get enough conversation with Dylan. I thought he was amazing, and his family were incredible, inventive, creative, a problem solver, and a bit cheeky too, which I love. A lot of FOP people have a little cheekiness to them, which he
Uh,
brought he brought to light. But yes, watching him and talking to him about the modifications he made to just general equipment, getting a stick, putting something on the end of it so that he could hook and pick things up. His parents modifying a shoe, a slipper,
yes.
just a basic slipper and turning it into a shoe.
That was
Like,
amazing.
what an incredible family. What an incredible way to look at things.
Yeah.
You do need to get creative, and you do need to get inventive, and not always you won't find most things off the shelf in the shop, but
Mhm.
as simple as a stick and a hook.
Yeah. And being acknowledging like being a bit of a hoarder. Yeah. But,
Yeah.
you just know that what you've got and what you're using at the moment, you might need to tweak that again in the future. And so you've got pretty much your own storeroom full of goods that you
Yeah,
keep
they were an
using.
amazing family. They were fantastic. You know, yeah, got a lot to learn from the Dylans and the families and other families, and yeah, got a lot to learn. There's a lot of information. There's a lot of knowledge, and there's years and years and years of FOP knowledge and experience, and what's worked, what hasn't worked. We don't have to rewrite things. We can just lean into them, and we're staying all in contact. It's great.
That's good.
Yeah.
The other thing, I mean, I enjoyed all of it, and Neil Danaher, his message
Oh,
was amazing.
oh
Uh,
my goodness! Like, there was not a dry eye in that room. There was, I don't know if you could hear it, but there was tissues being pulled out of boxes everywhere.
uh,
What a huge acknowledgement to FOP. What a sensational human. What a sensational speech, acknowledgement. I don't know. I still, when I think about that, I've spoken about that twice today. Neil Danaher spoke about FOP, and then like what? Yeah, so something also too. I think that he's platformed, identified, acknowledged, and wished us all such, well, wished our FOP families well, and kind of, I think we might just reach back into him a little more. How's our other guest speaker that stood up at the end on the last day? Um,
I enjoyed Stu,
yes,
like a social support. He
yes,
he was really good, and I just found listening to him, he spoke with a warm heart and was just really natural. He wasn't textbook. It was caring, lived experience because I think he said that he'd been a support worker, hadn't he?
yes, yes, he
But
had. Yep.
he's kind of done the caring, the hands-on. So he's got all of that lived experience, and then I think he's just a good person. You could hear that in his voice, and then to bring some of that the psychosocial um, information into it. But you didn't, when you were listening, you didn't feel like you were listening to a lecture. It was a
No,
conversation almost, and the way he spoke to everybody was with understanding um, and care. I thought he was really. It was like he was interested and he cared about everybody that was in the room.
yeah, he and he spoke to it as his his life, his journey. It wasn't like I cared for someone with FOP. I am an FOP family person. I am part of FOP. Sometimes I was like, yeah, it was good. It was a beautiful compliment
Mm.
to
Yeah,
not only him but the family he cared for, the person he cared for with FOP. And you could just tell the love and the compassion, empathy, the deep understanding of not just the person with FOP, but the families and the siblings. And he talked as a whole group. It was like everything and everyone who looked at him as a person caring for someone with FOP, he looked at them equally with them. Yeah, I really loved listening to Stu. And I didn't get time to catch up with him afterwards. He was a hot commodity. Everyone wanted to talk to Stu. I understand why. But yeah, I'm going to reach out to Stu as well. There's lots of, yeah, I want to have that conversation with Stu.
I thought the organisers did an amazing job
Oh,
pulling
yeah.
together such a really good variety of speakers and people. You know, sometimes you can go to a conference and it's kind of like same, 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 same. Whereas they pulled together such a good group of people that all had a very different expertise,
Mm-hmm.
and their knowledge complemented each other. They kind of covered everything you needed to hear to, I guess, educate or raise your awareness about FOP. The organisers of the
Mm-hmm.
conference did an amazing job.
Didn't they just? Didn't they just? There was nothing missing. And if you were there, you would see that when we had those little, there was a breakout room. There was space for us all to kind of move around and have chats and conversations. There was breakfast, there was morning tea, there was lunch, there was dinners. There was, the experts of an FOP stood around amongst us with us and didn't leave us. Lots of conversations happening away from the recording, the screen. Um, they weren't time sensitive, they weren't time poor. They were there, like they were there, and they were, immersed in with standing. Quite often you'd see one of the FOP specialists go to take a bite of his sandwich and just like kind of like, well, okay, I can't do that. I'm gonna have to chit chat some more. So I don't think they got to eat very much because they talked a lot and everyone was talking to them. But yeah, what a wonderful event. What a I don't know. There's nothing I could fault about it. Not a single thing. It was
I love the
amazing.
I love that every session
Mhm.
had question time, and nobody was ever rushed. People never missed out on asking their questions.
No,
You know,
on and no,
sometimes
and
sometimes you go somewhere and you get an opportunity for three people to ask a question, and that's it, time's up. Whereas this time, we had people online on Zoom asking questions, people in the room asking questions, um, and you would have one particular speaker. And if somebody asked a question and he thought that another speaker in the room had
yeah,
some kind of relevance, he'd bring them into the conversation as well. It was like there were no tight rules, and that the only rule was that we're going to meet the needs of the people in the room.
yes,
And everything goes. And the conversation was so good.
it was great, and it was lovely being in the room and hearing from people online and zooming in, hearing their questions and comments, and yeah, engaging with them. It was Coralie who was sitting with her phone and scrolling through the messages and said, "Oh, I've got another question. It's an online question." So nobody missed out. And if they did, then what we would do, what I was seeing happening afterwards was that those I guess if your question didn't get asked in question time, it I'm not sure whether you saw, but afterwards we had a big question Q&A time afterwards where it was a bit of a free for all Q&A for some of those
Yeah,
people perhaps that thought, oh, I didn't get to ask that question. I missed that session thinking there would be time. Afterwards, it was great.
that was really good because it was a really wide variety of questions.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and some things, people were talking about things that you didn't hear about during the conference because it was to do with somebody's lived experience.
Mm-hmm.
And I always think you can't beat lived experience because that's the real raw grassroots experience, that quite often people aren't interested in or they exclude. And yet those experiences are what can really guide, things moving forward for new FOP people, or like Dylan, for example, being older. the things that he could tell the families in the room who have the younger people, I just think that's the most valuable information is lived experience.
You're right there. There was other people, Lynn, there was Damien, there's other people amongst the the audience, the group, I guess, participant, they were FOP people, and they brought so much knowledge and information. And I know, and I saw, and I heard how the FOP specialists and researchers were leaning into them, asking them all these questions. What was that like for you? You know, what information would you give to us? You're absolutely right, Lisa. Um, that lived experience, the information, um, having the opportunity to provide um, is, you know, again, come back to that's what we need. That's what is so important. That's what I guess knowledge is based on is experience because I know that's yeah, I agree. I mean, I look at you, Lisa, and your experience with, in the space you've been working in for years and years and years. You can't buy that. You can't write that experience. You can't buy that experience. You can gather that experience, but you can only gather that when you speak and you're willing to listen. And I think that's what was really happening. People were speaking, but they were really willing to listen and learn, and felt very heard, validated, acknowledged, and really well supported. And I'm looking forward to having a lot more conversations.
Hmm. So Grace told me something. Oh,
Oh, what did Grace tell you?
so I heard that you bumped into a famous person while you were over there.
Mhm. We did. So we arrived on the, oh gosh, was it Monday, late Monday afternoon? So we left home at Adelaide at 9 and didn't get to our accommodation until 4:30 because traveling with a person with FOP and disability. That is just it wasn't because we weren't moving in a fast way. It was because we had to take the time and the pace and work at the pace of, keeping Grace safe. So we arrive and we put our bags down, set up our room, and head on down for some dinner. And sitting there, ordered our meal at this beautiful Italian restaurant. And somebody walks in and I think, gosh, she looks familiar. And I go across and I'm like, that's Lynn Granger, Home and Away. Oh my goodness. Grace goes, oh, that's the lady with the beautiful yellow dress. So Grace says, I want to say hello to her. And I'm okay then. So off we go, get her out of her wheelchair and go walk, mosey on across there. And Lynn was absolutely beautiful. Hello, beautiful girl. Got her chatting and Grace said, um, I saw you and you got a gold logie. You were the winner. Your dress was so beautiful. I loved it. It was yellow. And she said, it was really heavy, Grace. And she said, but you look so beautiful. Oh, thank you, Grace. Why are you here? Grace goes into, I'm here for the FOP Australia conference. What's that, Grace? And so she describes what she has, FOP, extra special bones grow in my body. My left arm doesn't work and the likes and what she was talking about. And then she said, oh, Mummy, have you got that bracelet? So I handed over the bracelet and then said, oh my goodness, I'm on Sunrise tomorrow morning. I'm going to wear this. Grace, you are adorable. We took a couple of photos and guess what? 7:30 the next morning on Sunrise, there's Lynn, hands up like this, chatting away with the FOP bracelet on. Yeah. And Grace like, oh, look, there she is, there she is. So yes, we were up very early the next morning, very excited that Lynn took the opportunity to one, chat with us and give us her time and acknowledge that, she was going to promote FOP on TV. And she did.
That's
So
so
yeah.
good.
But Lynn said, oh, I am so privileged to meet you, Grace. I have met someone incredibly famous, rare and famous. And Grace goes, oh, I'm not the famous one. You are. You were on TV. Yeah, it was beautiful. I don't know, it's just so beautiful.
Uh-huh. Special.
Yeah.
So, is there anything else you want to mention before we wind it up? And I hope that if anybody has any questions about FOP, they can post questions in the comment section on YouTube when we
Mm.
put this video up, and that also perhaps we can try to get a couple of the medical professionals and people that might be interested in talking a little bit about things like the PBS. What does that mean? Maybe some research that's happening. Um, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, They've got their website on the FOP page has some amazing
Mm.
merchandise. I love the socks, and they've got the reusable coffee cups. And we've it's great that we'll be able to access some of those here in Adelaide and be able to sell some of those to the community. That's pretty exciting because
Yeah.
people walking around with an FOP coffee mug and or the
There's a
uh,
t-shirt. There's a t-shirt as well. I'm so disappointed I didn't wear it right now because it's a black t-shirt that has the FOP foot like that, FOP Australia on it across the front. Oh, but anyway, yes, there's lots of merchandise. There's lots of, and the reason why we do, wear something that says FOP Australia is because promoting or acknowledging FOP being so rare is we get to find the people who have, undiagnosed yet, and that's such a very, very important thing is to be diagnosed and be part of, I guess, FOP medical professionals and to have it what we have, equal to what we have, which is keeping our FOP people safe, being part of, the family, and talking FOP because yeah, it is rare. There's only 900 people in the world so far, I believe, that have been diagnosed, and there's a lot more missing. So when we wear FOP Australia, we talk about the bent big toe and like nodes or tumor-like lumps on a person's body. They are the true indicators of FOP.
and it
Mm.
doesn't need to be as hard now, does it? If you went back 10 years ago, 20 years ago, how hard it must have been for
Mm.
some of those older people with FOP for them to be diagnosed.
Absolutely,
And for
Lisa.
anybody to
Yeah.
to even, those people have done the hard yards and
Yeah.
people sort of learning from them in how can they meet their needs and what would be the best types of therapies or medications and things like that. So to promote FOP and then find people who are out there now who
Mm.
are yet to be diagnosed and they suddenly see people talking about FOP and what does that look like for those people to be able to take that information to their doctor and say, hey, I think we perhaps have an idea of what's going on here. It would be amazing to see how many more people may be diagnosed and then have access to
Mm.
treatments and research and connection.
I always say I'm sorry you're here, but I'm glad you're with us because being in part of, and being, I guess that like you said, the FOP, the generation that are with us now that have all that hard knowledge and they've fought their way. One thing that they did say, a lot of people with FOP who are older said the reason why we stay steady and true, like part of the FOP community, is because for the little people who have been yet to be diagnosed, for the ones that are new, is that it's so very important to be part of and be present, and I guess acknowledge and inform. And honestly, that has been a game changer for our family. And I saw it on the weekend. I saw it happening for other people who'd been newly diagnosed. And there was a young woman. She was absolutely beautiful young woman who was diagnosed some time ago, but had only been connected with FOP, Australia 2 weeks ago. Two
That's
weeks ago,
wow.
like unbelievable. But to walk into a space like this, yeah, it's tough, but wow, an incredible opportunity that was created for her. So she jumped in and jumped on, and in they came with her people. So yeah, that's what FOP Australia looks like. It's what FOP looks like when you bring people together in the community. It's like a village, a
Well,
beautiful
why
village.
should they be any different to any other community? We have our breast cancer groups and support groups and fundraisers and likewise for other diagnosis and disabilities. So why should FOP be any different?
I know,
Let, let's
Lisa.
let's bring that out and educate, raise awareness, and
Let's celebrate them. Let's celebrate them. Let's champion them. I don't know. There's a lot more to be done. I just feel like we've just begun. This is like I said, the first FFP conference in 10 years. Now some of our little people weren't born then. 10 years ago, and some of ours have advanced a lot in those 10 years. A lot changes as an FOP person in 10 years. But no, I'm excited to get back amongst and in and with and support FOP Australia, and yeah, encourage others to ask questions, talk to others. You know, one person talking to another person, talking to two other people. You know, they say the best form of advertising is word of mouth. Let's ask people, have they heard of FOP? Jump on FOP Australia or IFOPA. IFOPA is another website you can jump onto, and there's a lot of information. Ask questions over there too, because everyone's keen to inform. So thanks again, Lisa. I think we kind of went over our half an hour just a little bit.
All righty. Well, we'll set about trying to get a couple of people on next time to talk a little bit more about some of the other sides of FOP and their expertise. And
yeah, even any of our people in our FOP community that were at FOP Conference Australia in Melbourne, don't be frightened to jump on and make yourself as famous as me.
yeah, and comment. They can comment below and say, "Hey, we want to come on next time," and hey, we want to talk about something. So yeah, they can hit the comment section and we can
Yeah,
do that.
it could be 5, 10 minutes, it could be 15 minutes, it could be longer, but yeah, we all love talking FOP. Yeah.
All right.
Thanks again, Lisa, again for the
Thanks,
opportunity. And
Leah.
thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for supporting us on our journey over to Melbourne and staying in contact with us, and, keep that, I guess, that away from home support for us was amazing. Appreciate it. You're always amazing, Lisa. Thank you.
Thanks, Leah. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.